Hocus Pocus by Pegasus Rescue Brigade, Chapter 15. Princess Luna towered over Dinky. The royal mare's expression was unreadable. "Calm down, young one," she commanded. "Explain what has happened once more, slowly." After Sunbeam's disappearance, Dinky had done the only thing she could do upon finding herself stranded in the woods at night: approach the castle guards. Naturally, given that it was the middle of the night, she was taken to be reprimanded for breaking curfew. Luckily, the dean was asleep, so she'd been brought directly to Princess Luna instead. Now the two ponies stood in Luna's odd little office, a moonlit room with little more to see than an old oak desk, and various star charts printed to the walls. Dinky took a breath and explained to herself less frantically. Wary of Loney's stony, uncheating expression, she carefully recounted everything that had happened, from the dream to waking up in the forest to Sunbeam's threat. Luna stood very still, waiting patiently for Dinky's tale to conclude before replying. "Young one, I hope you understand that the situation with this rogue cult is becoming quite serious," she said finally. "There are a host of protective enchantments on the residence towers, so I find it very unlikely he teleported you into the woods. But it is possible he was able to will you to sleepwalk via your dreams, which is perhaps even more troubling."
"Well, what can I do?"
Dinky asked, flattening her ears against her head nervously.
"Nobody's managed to catch him yet. He only allows himself to be seen by me and my friends. Is there some way I can stop him from doing whatever he wants the next time he appears to me?"
"Dinky Doo, based on what you have told me, I do not think this cult wishes to hurt you," Luna admitted, placing her forehead gently on Dinky's shoulder. "He does, however, seem determined to make you use dark magic, and it is there his weakness lies. You must defy him, deny his commands, refute his claims, and be wary of his tricks. He cannot physically force you to use such spells without the use of powerful, localized atmospheric spells, which are easy even for the inexperienced to detect and avoid. As long as you don't allow him to lead you into a trap, I believe he is all talk."
"Maybe face to face,"
Dinky mumbled, looking at the floor, scraping her hoof sheepishly along the boards.
"It's a different story in my dreams."
Luna raised the forehead, surprised. "Dinky Doo, has the influence of these dreams of yours led you to use more dark magic?" Dinky gasped quietly, and put a forehead over her mouth. She looked away, afraid and ashamed to respond. The princess's expression softened. "Young one, I assure you I am only here to help," she said quietly. "Please, tell me the truth."
It did happen once,"
Dinky said morosely, hanging her head.
"And Sunbeam has tried again and again, but I've been forcing myself to wake up. I think Scorpio's gradually making the dreams more vivid, though. I'm not sure how much longer I'll be able to resist them while I'm asleep."
Again, Luna rested a tender forehead on the filly's shoulder. "You forget, Dinky, that I am also capable of entering pony's dreams. And this is what it has come to. I shall keep vigil over your dreams until Scorpio's influence departs from you. A pony, even a dark magic user, will have to be clever indeed to gain an upper hand to me on the realm of dreams." Dinky allowed herself to smile.
"You do that for me?" she asked softly. "Thank you, Princess. I'll be able to sleep more peacefully knowing you're keeping an eye on me."
The filly lowered her voice, rubbing one forehead against the other awkwardly.
"And, do you think maybe we could not tell Dean about this? She has enough of a grudge against me already."
"I fear we must inform her about Sunbeam's latest actions. But we can keep the bit about using dark magic again between you, me, and my sister," Luna said with a wink. "I suggest you tell Twilight Sparkle as well." Dinky pranced and played gleefully.
"That works for me. Thanks so much, Princess Luna."
"You are quite welcome," Luna said, smiling warmly. "Now, you should return to your tower. It's quite late, and I must return to my duties here." Dinky trotted, feeling quite relieved. Both she and the princess were unaware of the purple pony watching through the keyhole of the door across the room. "Interesting," Sparkle mumbled, scribbling something in a notebook and tucking it into her saddlebag. She hesitated a moment longer, then trotted off silently into the dark.
"And so, As long as Princess Luna keeps sending me out my dreams, everything will be fine,
Dinky said proudly, as the four friends made their way to practical magic class.
Turns out, he was just blowing hot air.
Don't get cocky, Dinky, Clarity warned. The only reason Luna's plan is a proper countermeasure is because Sunbeam is trying to use you rather than hurt you.
Yeah, that counts bad news.
Haidu chimed in, looking worried.
Even if he was trying to psych you out, he did teach you dark magic, and seems like an expert on it himself. That makes him a threat to every pony, even the princesses.
Still, Dinks has a point, Scuffle added. This is really the first time she's gotten to strike back against Sunbeam since he started to manipulate her. He's got a right to be happy about that.
Right, Dinky agreed. And don't worry, Clarity. Underestimating Sunbeam would be the worst mistake I can make at this point. But at least I know there's a way some pony can help me resist him until the guards or the princesses finally catch him.
He's bound to try and fight dirty once he figures it out, though, Clarity said wearily. Don't forget, he knows who we are. What happens if he comes after us? Haidu moaned and pinned her ears against the back of her head.
Ugh, please, don't even bring that up, Clarity. I think if Sunbeam tried to do something drastic, some pony would probably notice, Dinky said. He's really intent on keeping a low profile, so I don't think he would attack you three outright. Besides, he always seems to come out in the evenings or at night, so stay indoors and with other ponies. Or just go to the rest of the towers and you should be fine.
I guess, Clarity said, sighing. Still, the sooner this whole mess blows over, the better. The four foals ended their conversation there, as they trotted into the practical magic classroom and took their seats. Professor Morningstar was waiting in front of the classroom with an interesting gleam in his eye. Hey, Sunburst, how many times did you fail this class? Twice. I'm so sorry. Good morning, every pony, he said cheerfully. Can you believe it's already the 1st of September? In barely more than 2 months, our term will conclude, and we have so much to cover. Today, we are starting on a new topic, one that many of you have been waiting all year long. The professor quickly wrote the acronym LIMIT on the board once again. This entire course is revolved around this word, he announced. We've covered the topics a great deal. Every single one of you has mastered levitation and illumination, and many of you are proficient or better with manipulation of objects or illusion. But, remind me, what does the T in limit stand for? Teleportation! At least the half class aloud. Precisely! Morningstar replied. Teleportation, as you all likely recall, is the most complex and practical spells. There are many adult unicorns in Equestria who are completely incapable of this useful means of magical teleportation. Luckily for us, this room is full of an up-and-coming wave of the most talented unicorns there are. So, who's ready to learn how to teleport? There were various cheers and cries of assent from the students. Dinky had seen Twilight teleport almost effortlessly around the library, and was totally enamored with the project of being able to do the same. Let me offer a word of caution before you get too excited, the professor continued. Teleportation, no matter how you slice it, is a difficult spell. So difficult, in fact, many of you will not succeed today, or even by the end of the term. When it comes time for the final exam, you will be tested on your ability to produce the proper magic for a teleport. If you manage to do so successfully, it might be worth a few bonus points, but you certainly feel obligated to master the ability in just 2 months' time. The professor waited for his message to kick in. The class quieted, and he continued. Nevertheless, you will all try. I'm confident some of you will succeed, and those who don't will find it eventually come to you with practice and time. You might find teleportation is helpful, or even required in some of your upper-level classes in the future. So, this course is certainly not your only chance to learn it. He gave the chalkboard a quick click, and with one hoof, flipping it over to reveal a set of diagrams of ponies suspended by magic, coupled with a set of equations detailing the magic output requirements. On that note, let's begin, he said, pointing to the chalk drawings. As you may remember from our first class, teleportation is a form of self-levitation, coupled with movement at a speed that transcends physical physics. At its core, it's just a very, very advanced levitation spell. He switched his tail and glanced around the room, as if trying to guess the answer to his next question. So, I don't suppose any of you have ever attempted to self-levitate? No hose went up. That's probably for the best. Professor Morningstar chuckled. As I also mentioned on the first day of class, self-levitation is far more taxing on one's magic reserves than levitation of another object. The first part of your training, to learn how to teleport, is to learn how to self-levitate. Don't forget, you only need to maintain the spell for a second or so. Teleportation happens immeasurably fast, so spending just 1 second holding yourself off the ground is already a far longer time than a true teleport will take.
Starlight, question. Oh, very simple. I drank a lot of mana potions, and I used part of the map to help power my levitation. Oh, when you saw me flying with Rainbow Dash, you didn't see me getting back onto the ground panting.
He pointed to a 9-numbered digit written on a chalkboard. Now, the other aspect of teleportation is the required speed. The number you see here is the speed of light. It's standardized pony lengths per second, without the aids of magic. This is the fastest speed attainable by physics. If you want to be able to teleport through solid objects, you must produce a speed with magic that exceeds this one.
Produce it? I don't think I can even say it, Scuffle whispered, earning a chuckle for Dinky.
Now, fortunately, these speeds are the norm for teleportation, the professor continued. If the amount of magic produced is not enough to reach the required speed, the teleport simply fails to occur. Luckily for us, I might add, because the alternative would be hurtling into solid objects at near light speed.
Dinky raised a hoof. So, besides kind of being draining, teleportation is totally safe? She asked, tilting her head.
That depends on how you define safe,
Morningstar replied, pointing his ears back and glancing swiftly around the room.
There is one annoying and sometimes mightily uncomfortable potential problem that can and often does occur.
Scuffle gave a snort that turned into a chuckle. You get roasted in the process, he said, not bothering waiting for the professor to call him.
I've seen Scorch and Frosty do it. It's hilarious.
Roasted? Dinky asked, slightly alarmed.
Roasted is a strong word, Professor Morningstar laughed. In a way, though, Scuffle is correct. When teleporting, you are applying a tremendous amount of magic to your own body and moving it at incredible speeds. The magic must be focused very carefully. If it's not, it's still possible to teleport successfully, but you will not be protected from the heat created by both the excess magic and rapid motion. Fortunately, exposure only lasts an instant, but it's long enough to cause the main code to be singed fairly significantly.
See, this is why there's brimstone that occurs whenever Nightcrawler teleports.
Contrary to Scuffle's less delicate sounding, it is not possible to cook yourself alive while teleporting. The only way to do that would be if you teleport a laughably massive distance, like to another planet, and in such circumstances you would run out of magic before the heat did more than just burn away some fur.
Is it likely that this will happen the first time we manage to teleport? Curdy asked.
Probably,
the professor admitted, shrugging sheepishly.
Like I said, it's not really a big deal. If any pony manages it and gets a bit scorched, I'll help you clean up. Now, your goal is to attempt to teleport by combining self-levitation with a secondary rapid movement spell. Technical details are on the chalkboard and in your textbooks if you need them. Now, get up and start practicing.
The room immediately became a bustle of activity. Dinky, Clarity, Honeydew, and Scuffle quickly clustered together and headed to their usual corner of the classroom to practice. So, which one of you is going to try it first? Honeydew asked, looking back and forth between Dinky and Clarity. Why us? Clarity asked. You and Scuffle can try too. Scuffle rolled his eyes.
Yeah, right. Me pulling off a spell is commonplace as a teleport.
You might as well ask me to sprout wings while you're at it. You two are the ones with the strongest magic skills, Honeydew pointed out. I'll try later, but you're the ponies who have a chance of actually succeeding. Clarity shrugged. Well, Dinky, you've seen plenty of ponies teleport. You do have that knack for picking up on the finer details of spellcasting after you watched it happen a few times. She began. Just last week, you were the only pony who could perform a conjuring spell in transformation class. You might have the best chance of teleporting too. I guess I can try, Dinky said, conceding.
She thought back to Twilight teleporting around the library, and lucid as he teleported out of Clarity's room. Of particular importance was the time Presto had teleported. It brought her along as a passenger in the spell. The filly's horn flared with yellow light, glowing brighter than usual as she pumped every bit of her energy into it.
Focusing energy on moving to another spot,
she thought to herself over and over.
Let the magic pick me up and carry me there all at once.
Dinky's friend stepped back, surprised, as her aura extended from her horn and began to surround her whole body. For a few seconds she stood, concentrating and quivering in place. To her own delight, she rose about a half a pony length into the air. Almost immediately, maintaining the magic became monumentally taxing. Within a second or two, Dinky found herself too busy struggling to keep afloat to focus on actually moving. Barely a second later, the magical cost became too severe. Her concentration broke, and with a panicked squeak, she fell to the floor in a heap. Clarity giggled. Well, that was certainly something. Dinky rolled over and glared at her friend.
Help me up, would you?
She asked irritably.
I feel like somebody filled me with cement. That spell uses up a lot of magic.
With Clarity's aid, Dinky got back to her hose and leaned against the wall, breathing hard.
Somebody else give it a try,
she panted. Throughout the class, scenes seemed to be the same for both of the four friends and all the other students. Now and then, a lucky colt or filly would manage to get a brief bout of levitation, but no pony managed to couple it with a secondary spell needed to teleport. Professor Morningstar continued to stress that the two components of the spell needed to be cast at the same time, or else the energy expenditure of the hovering would quickly make the other half possible. Soon, class had nearly concluded, and no pony had managed to teleport even a short distance. Dinky, who had managed to levitate herself more than once, sat slumped in the corner, too tired to give it another attempt. Quick, give her a mana potion! Honeydew and Scuffle, as they had expected, had both failed to do much. Although Honeydew had lifted herself just a tiny distance off the ground for an instant with levitation, which seemed to be enough of an achievement in her eyes. Clarity, panting hard from her own successful instances of hovering, trudged back out in front of her friends to give the spell one final attempt. Last shot for today, Scuffle pointed out. Make it count, Clarity!
You can do it,
Honeydew cheered.
Yay.
Although Dinky could see in Clarity's eyes that the encouragement was fruitless, the great filly smiled all the same. Concentrating one more time, she lit her horn and surrounded her figure with a red glow. Dinky forced her aching legs to support her, and began to trot forward with her saddlebag, keeping an eye on Clarity all the while. For about 10 seconds, Clarity remained completely still. She did not float in the air or adjust her position. She simply stood there, engulfed in her own magic. Then, unexpectedly, she disappeared in a flash. Dinky blinked.
Did she just?
Dinky only barely had time to register Clarity's departure before the gray filly reappeared overhead and crashed down on top of her, pinning her to the floor and knocking the wind out of her. Immediately, the room was in an uproar. Professor Morningstar pushed past the other students and rushed over to the two fillies and tangled in a heap. Bravo, Clarity! Bravo! He cried, stamping his forehead in applause. Your aim was a bit off, but that was an honest-to-goodness teleport! And on the first day, too. Clarity coughed and rolled off with Dinky. Dinky got a look at her friend. Couldn't help but laugh, despite trying to catch her breath. Poor Clarity was terribly disheveled and covered head and foot in soot. Black marks lined the edges of her mane and tail, where the tips of her tail had burned away. Wait, I did it? Clarity asked, disoriented. I'm not even sure what happened. You decided to teleport up to the ceiling and crush stakes on the way down. Scuffle somehow managed, although he was doubled over in laughter. Clarity shakily stood up and smiled, embarrassed. Sorry, Dinky. I wasn't really sure how to control that.
I'm not the one covered in ashes,
Dinky responded, smirking.
Seriously, though. Awesome job, Clarity.
Awesome job indeed. Professor Morningstar agreed. Class is dismissed. Dinky, Clarity, stay behind a few moments. We'll get you two cleaned up. The professor's swift and clever magic quickly got the girls looking as they did before class. Her worries about Sun being temporarily forgotten, Dinky happily galloped off to celebrate with her friends. For late summer, it was unusually cold that night. Lighting the fireplace in the student lounge may have been overkill, but somehow he did anyway, and the flames crackled away in the hearth, casting long shadows around the room. Dinky was snuggled up contentedly on the couch, lazily pacing through a list of star types she was supposed to be memorizing for the astronomy. Scuffle was nearby, lying quietly on his back on the floor, and trying to balance a quill tip down on the underside of his hoof. Honeydew was curled up near the fire, and appeared to be asleep. All in all, it was a peaceful scene. Then Clarity showed up. Considering Clarity chose to bug the doors open rather than use magic, it was pretty clear that, even hours later, she still hadn't quite come off the rust from her unexpected, successful spell earlier that day. The sound of doors being thrown wide open roused Honeydew from her nap, and looked wildly around for a moment. "Sup, Clarity?" Scuffle asked, not looking away from the kill, precariously wobbling on his hoof. "I just got back from sending a letter," Clarity announced as if this was exciting news. "Lucid's going to lose it once he finds out I already managed to teleport." Honeydew rubbed her eyes.
I'm sure she will, Clarity.
She said, holding back a yawn.
But don't you think it's maybe time to calm down now? You've been celebrating for most of the day.
"Oh, sorry," Clarity said, giggling. "It's just, you guys know how much I love learning powerful new spells. I know a few, and usually they take me weeks to focus practice." She carefully rose her hind legs. "But look at me today," she continued. "Just this once, I got to be really impressive. For once, I shined even brighter than Lucid." Clarity threw her forelegs out to her sides victoriously, which unfortunately caused her to lose her balance. Flailing, she squeaked as she stumbled sideways onto the couch, sending Dinky's stuffed saddlebag toppling to the floor and spilling papers and quills everywhere. "Oops," she said weakly. Dinky hopped off the couch and started picking up her scattered possessions.
It is exciting, she agreed. You just need to, tone it down a bit.
"Yeah," Clarity agreed. She stood up to help Dinky clean up the mess. She picked up Dinky's saddlebag, dumping out a few odds and ends still inside so they could reorganize its contents. Once she shook it, a white, spherical object dropped out and rolled across the carpet. "What's that?" Scuffle asked, tossing his quill aside, sitting up to look at the object.
"Oh, nothing,"
Dinky said dully, turning back to her bag.
"It's just a pearl sparkler I candied for us last month. It's damaged. I've been meaning to see if I could fix it, but I haven't gotten around to it."
Clarity looked at the large pearl in her aura and stroked the large crack wound of her forehoof. "I think the enchantment should still be on it," she said thoughtfully. "I tried using a transformation spell to try and modify the shape a little, then fuse the crack shut once you could get the sides to meet." Dinky pondered the suggestion as she shuffled the last book into her saddlebag.
I haven't thought of that,"
she admitted, taking the pearl and setting back down with it.
"Let me work on that."
The filly in her horn began to move the pearl between her hooves. She delicately tried to ease the gap closed. Clarity leaned over and joined in on the effort. Scuffle turned away from the two fillies and sat down instead next to Honeydew, who was still laying by the fire. "What kind of enchantment is on that thing, anyway?" he asked her.
"You read your mood and changes color to reflect it,"
Honeydew replied.
"It worked pretty well before Sparkler broke it."
She looked pensive for a moment.
"I just wish we knew what makes her so guarded," she continued. "You weren't there, of course, but the day she enchanted was the closest we've ever gotten to her to opening up."
"Yeah, I'd love to know what makes that mare tick," he said, flopping down on the rug next to the filly. "I'm tired of being bossed around by such a grump." There was a short pause. Scuffle glanced in Honeydew's direction and was surprised at seeing her staring at him apprehensively. "What?" he asked finally.
"You're a little close,"
Honeydew mumbled, making a half-hearted attempt to nudge the colt away with a forehoof. Honeydew rolled his eyes. "Honeydew, I thought we sorted this out while we were on vacation, he said, flicking his tail at Dinky. Are you still uncomfortable? Honeydew shrugged noncommittally.
Not really, I guess, she said softly. It's just gonna take some time, I think, for me to adjust.
How much time? Scuffle asked, twisting an ear. It's been a month, and I haven't done anything particularly bad since we tried to resolve things.
You haven't done anything particularly good either, Honeydew said simply. You talk to me sometimes, and you attend class with me, and that's about it. That's all fine, but, well, there's a difference between a polite acquaintance and an actual friend.
Scuffle's ears drooped. All right, you have a point, he stuttered, shuffling a short distance away to give Honeydew her wanted space. I really do want what's best for you. Dinky and Clarity, too. I guess I'm not too good at showing it. Having friends is a little new to me. There was a silence for a second. Scuffle noticed it and turned to the cats, frowning at the two other fillies, who had ceased their hushed conversation about the pearl to listen in. What are you two looking at? He asked irritably.
Nothing, Dinky said quickly. Here, I think I fixed the crack of the pearl. Test it out for us.
She tossed the pearl at Scuffle. Nicole caught it, but it remained white. No luck, thanks, he said, casually tossing and casting the jewel. Either the enchantment's worn off, or you still have some repairs to do.
That's the shame,
Clarity said, pursing her lips.
Well, we'll mess with it more tomorrow. I guess it's about time to get to bed. Yeah, it's been a long day.
Honeydew agreed, standing up and stretching for a moment. Scuffle looked at Honeydew as she rose to her hose. For just a moment, Dinky thought she saw a flicker of change in the pearl. It may have been the cold changing its angle relatively to the light of the fire. But just for a second, it seemed to shimmer pink. Before she could investigate it, Scuffle tossed the pearl back in her direction. She caught it with her magic and examined it closely. But it was the dull white as usual. Wondering if she was imagining things, the filly returned the apparently still defective gem to her bag, and trotted along with Clarity and Honeydew back to the hall of the filly's tower. Over the next few weeks, Dinky's plan to counter Sunbeam's invasion into her dreams seemed to be working. With Luna looming over the realms of her sleeping mind, Sunbeam dared not to appear, even when Dinky found herself back in the strange, reflective cave. After 2 or 3 attempts, her dreams ceased to lead her there entirely. Dinky was satisfied with her apparent fidgery, imagining Sunbeam swearing to himself each time he tried to enter her mind, felt Luna's influence there instead. Heading into the forest was still safe during daylight hours, as far as Dinky could tell. About a week into September, the girls, along with Scuffle, headed for their hideouts in the afternoon, as they often did after class. Dinky and Clarity were busy telling the story of Nestor's latest antics in transformation class. Engrossed in her story, Dinky wasn't paying attention and nearly tripped over the ball of orange fur crawled up on the hideout floor.
Oops! Sorry, Trouble,
Dinky said, carefully walking around the fox. Trouble, strangely, didn't acknowledge the fillies. He sitted slightly and curled up tighter. Dinky raised an eyebrow.
Lazy today, huh?
Honeydew drew in. Contrast to Dinky's amusement seemed concerned. She trotted over and stroked Trouble gently. The fox lifted his head for a moment, gave Honeydew a fake glance through blurry eyes, and lay back down again.
Laziness has nothing to do with it,
Honeydew mumbled forebodingly.
He's not well. Poor thing. I hope it's not too serious.
What's wrong with him? Scuffle asked.
How am I supposed to know?
Honeydew asked, delicately petting Trouble's coat again.
I'm fairly good with plants, but I don't know a whole lot about animals.
Clarity's horn lit and carefully looked at the fox. He dangled limply in Aurora, too drained to try to resist. Wow, look at him, Clarity said, now sharing Honeydew's concern. He's gotten really thin. Maybe he's been too sick to hunt. Scuffle put a huff over his muzzle. And he smells, too. The colt commented, agitated.
What do you think we should do? Given the state he's in, I'm not sure if he'll recover if we don't try to help.
Clarity turned to Dinky. He's always liked you best. Any ideas how we can help him?
One, but you're not going to like it.
Right. Time to call Agent F.
The Fluttershy signal. I'm on my way.
Perhaps it was fortunate Trouble was too weak to move very much. A bulging saddlebag attracted little suspicion, but a bulging riding saddlebag would have been harder to ignore. Equally fortunate was the fact that the cold-proof shield surrounding the village tower seemed to only work on ponies. Dinky carried the saddlebag and its concealed passenger inside without issue. "I'm not so sure about this," Clarity whispered as the trio of fillies crept up the stairs to their dorm. "It's definitely against the rules. They're wearing a wild animal in here."
I know, Dinky hits back, but what choice do we have? Trouble's become like our mascot. He visits all the time when we go to the hideout, and he hardly destroys my stuff anymore. He's more pet than wild animal nowadays.
Guys, remember back in Book of Harmony I said that, well, you could tell when I'm really liking a character that I actually feel something? Same goes for here. Come on, guys, take care of Trouble!
But what about Sparkler?
Honeydew asked, glancing left and right as expecting Sparkler to burst through the wall and catch him at any moment.
If he catches Trouble, she'll report you to the team. I don't know how many more rules you can get away with breaking in the same year, Dinky. We'll make sure to keep it secret then,
Dinky said firmly.
We can't sugarcoat what's happening. Trouble is really sick. If we leave him out there to fend for himself, he'll die. Sure, he was a pain at first, but Trouble's on our side now. He keeps us company when we visit the forest, and he helped us scuffle that bad situation the day before Midsummer Holiday. Heck, we wouldn't have even found the hideout if he hadn't stolen my pendant.
He did do all that, Clarity agreed. But is he worth risking another offense against the rules? Or maybe even expulsion?
You two won't be expelled,
Dinky assured her.
And you know he hates me, remember?
You're dodging the question, Clarity asked crossly, stepping forward and blocking Dinky's way. Answer me. Is Trouble worth the risk or not? Dinky shrugged.
Maybe not,
she said, her tone surprisingly light.
But whoever said good deeds had to be repaid equally. My friend is sick, and I want to help him. It's as simple as that.
Caught off guard, Clarity stopped walking for a moment, then smiled. Big-hearted as ever, Dinky, she chuckled. Shame on me for questioning the very thing that makes you such a great friend in the first place. Dinky, Clarity, and Honeydew reached their room. The other two fillies looked at Dinky, awaiting instruction.
Alright, here's the plan,
she began, carefully lifting Trouble from the saddlebag.
Clarity, get a box or basket or some cloth or something to see if you can make a little bed for Trouble.
Roger that, Captain, Clarity replied, giving a silly salute.
Honeydew, Dinky continued, Trouble will need something to eat. Do you think Professor Chestnut could stand apart with a little bit of the meat-based feed for her animals? She won't mind at all. She has tons.
Honeydew replied, nodding.
Good. I'll take Trouble, since he seems to be most comfortable around me. Get him cleaned up a little,
she added, picking Trouble up again and draping him across her back.
Somebody will notice the smell if we don't. Not to mention, if none of us want to live in a dorm or something that smells like he does. So we'll clean him, feed him, and give him a warm place to sleep.
Honeydew said, rereading the checklist.
Then what? And I guess we have to hope it helps.
Dinky amid.
At least until we figure out how serious his illness is.
Undaunted, the fillies set off to begin their respective tasks. Trouble was quickly made comfortable, and seemed to be in stable condition. Much to Dinky's relief, he stayed quiet and out of the way, making him surprisingly easy to keep concealed. The fillies simply had to make sure to close the door whenever they had left the room. More worrying, however, was Trouble's condition. He didn't seem to be getting worse as the days went by, but he wasn't improving either. The girls kept him safe and well fed, hoping that he'd get his strength back. As the month went on through, even more unsettling event took priority in the filly's mind. It was an afternoon like any other, and Dinky and her friends just got out of enchantment class. After meeting up with Scuffle, they headed to the castle gardens to talk. So, Dinks, you know a little bit about counterspells, right?
Just one or two, Dinky admitted. That basic magic destruction spell was the first spell I ever cast, remember?
Yeah, that's why I figured I'd ask you. Scuffle continued. I checked out a book on counter spells and I... Late! Clarity cut in, giving Scuffle an incredulous look. You are going out of your way to learn magic we don't need to know for class? Since when do you do that? Since I figured they might be useful when I have two brothers who want me to mess up, Scuffle said, rolling his eyes. I was doing some thinking earlier this week, and I realized that counter spells probably fall under the umbrella of defensive magic. Maybe if I practice, I could get good enough to counter scores of Frosty's attacks, instead of just shielding myself and running away.
That's actually a smart idea,
Dinky said, patting Scuffle on the back.
So, what have you found out so far?
Scuffle shrugged. I'm just trying to figure out what spells would be the most useful, he said. Scores and Frosty like to use direct assaults, usually in the form of a fireball or a blast of freezing air. So I've been looking into that cancellation spell you used to cancel it before it's cast, and also a couple of late phase cancellations to try and stop them once they've already been thrown at me. Trouble is, I don't know if... Dinky? Scuffle trailed off and turned around. Dinky had stopped dead in her tracks and was staring blankly ahead. Clarity cautiously backed up and waved a huff in front of Dinky's face. Equestria to Dinky. You okay? Dinky blinked several times.
Yeah,
She said weakly.
sorry, just a headache or something. You were fine a few moves ago,
Honeydew said, trotting over and placing the side of her forehoof against Dinky's forehead.
Are you coming down with something?
Dinky gently pushed Honeydew away.
No, it's something else.
Dinky took a few more cautious steps, and suddenly reeled as a powerful aura engulfed her. It felt like there was some kind of concentrated magical energy nearby, radiating from someplace she couldn't see.
Lightning,
She wondered.
can't you feel it? They're unicorns too.
The sensation did not dull, and after a moment, Dinky sat down onto her haunches and shut her eyes, overwhelmed. Instantly, her friends were at her side. What's wrong? Clarity asked her finally, her voice tinged with worry. Do you need to take us to the infirmary? Dinky said nothing. The aura she felt hang in the air like a round smoke, attempting to muddle her thoughts. It felt oppressive, sickening, almost haunting, but strangely familiar.
Dark magic.
Clarity blinked. What?
Something around here is giving off a ton of dark magic.
Stinky managed, forcing herself to stand.
But where is it? What is it?
She tried over to the side of the path, where the aura felt strongest, looking closely for any sign of anything out of the ordinary. She stepped to the grass, her hoof brushed slightly against the smooth rock. Suddenly, the sensation more than doubled in intensity. Dinky cried out, was unable to prevent a blast of dark magic firing out of her horn, was making a sound like a firecracker and produced a shower of black sparks. Terrified, she backed off and collapsed on the pathway. Honeydew gave a sharp squeal and cowered behind the nearest large object. What's happened to me, Scuffle? Clarity, however, bravely galloped to Dinky's side. Dinky, what happened?
It's the rock,
Dinky mumbled, clutching her inky head.
The rock's full of dark magic.
Clarity glanced at the unassuming stone and dragged Dinky a few more pony lengths away from it. Dinky felt her head start to clear as some distance was put between her and the stone. Scuffle crept up to the rock like a cat stalking a mouse. Cringing, he carefully reached out and tapped it with a tip of his hoof. Absolutely nothing happened, and the cult breathed a sigh of relief. Are you sure that's what caused it, Dinks? He asked, poking the stone a few more times. Feels like a regular old rock to me.
Then it shouldn't really feel unusual to you,
Dinky replied, standing and walking a few more paces so the aura faded from her senses.
It's not a specific spell. There's a whole bunch of dark energy poured into one object. So, you can only feel it because of all that dark magic in you?
Honeydew asked, still keeping her distance.
Looks like it,
Dinky said frustratedly.
Simbinsky, really clever. I even thought about it, but exposing me to dark magic during March solstice is just about the best move you can make. Even the princesses can't sense dark energy when it says rain. But I'll be affected when I get near one because of this dumb corruption. The rest of the school can keep focusing uninterrupted, while Sunbeam can specifically torment me.
Clarity bit her lip. Is there anything you could do about it? She asked hesitantly.
Avoid them, obviously.
Dinky said, starting.
You start doing researching about disenchanting spells. I don't know if the spell using a spell to store magic in an object will work on dark magic enchantments, but I can certainly try them.
What about telling Twilight, or the princesses? Scuffle asked. Dinky looked at the floor.
I will if I need to,
She said.
The more I make them worry about my dark magic issues, the more likely they're going to entertain and do something drastic, like send me back to Ponyville. So I want to at least try to handle Sunbeam's latest move by myself.
Clarity hesitated, then nodded. Just be careful, okay? She asked as he led the group away from the stone. Sunbeam's not likely to make this an isolated event. We better start working on studying those disenchanting spells. I have a feeling that the cult's going to make an awful lot more of these things. The following weeks, Sunbeam did exactly that. Much to Dinky's discontent, the rock was only the first of many dark auras that cropped up around school. Even more unsettling was the fact that they were also being removed as often as they appeared. Dinky noticed within a day or two that the stones he first encountered had returned to a regular rock. Sunbeam, or so she guessed, was probably trying to make it difficult to prove the auras existed by changing their locations as their cover at night. The one silver lining was that the auras were not powerful enough to force Dinky to use dark magic, unless she touched the tainted objects. This made it pretty easy to avoid more corruption, but left the feeling anywhere from under the weather to downright miserable, depending on the exposure she received that day. Thankfully, the few little bursts of dark magic that she did have were small, and that happened in private. Once or twice, poor Dinky was tempted to give in and let a little dark magic flow, if only because giving to the aura's influence lessened the discomfort. But each time, she pushed the thought from her mind and focused on studying every resource in the school's library on enchantment rules spells.
I can't afford any more corruption,
she told herself.
Not with Scorpio getting so close. I have to grit my teeth and fight through this.
The rest of the tower, at least, remained a respite. Dinky and her friends started spending more of their free time there, which, given the dropping temperatures, wasn't too much of a tragedy. Most weekdays, though, after finishing her homework, Dinky would collapse into the bed, exhausted from another stressful day of resisting auras. Thankfully, her sleep remained peaceful for the time being. Each night, though, Scorpio climbed her way higher up into the night sky. Dinky was left to wonder if the worst was still to come. Soon it was late September. Virgo moved on the top of the night sky, and Libra took her place. The zodiac pony Dinky dreaded the most patiently waited her turn, next in line to become the constellation with the most influence. One sunny day, Dinky and Clarity made their way down to the castle for magic artifact class. Dinky kept her senses alert for the first prick of radiating dark magic. It had become a habit for her very quickly. You look very peppy today, Clarity observed. What's got you in such good spirits? Dinky grinned.
Remember how on the first day of class, Professor Braun suggested we have Miss Twilight as a guest speaker?
Clarity's eyes widened. Is that today? She asked excitedly. I didn't realize you actually been planning it. Dinky smirked.
Just because it's a surprise for the rest of the class,
she said silently.
Keep it a secret. I want to see your faces when the leader of the Elements of Harmony walks in.
Clarity giggled. I've met Twilight twice, and I'm still excited to see her. I can't imagine how the rest of the class will react.
There's also something I want to talk to her about while she's here,
Dinky said in a more serious tone.
Maybe I can get her to help me with the latest dark magic problem without her finding out just how serious it is.
Dinky and Clarity arrived at the classroom and took their seats. The rest of the class looked unaware of anything out of the ordinary, even when Professor Bronze entered the room wearing an unusual smile. Good afternoon, he said directly. I know it's been a long week. You're all like very much this class to be over with, so you can enjoy your weekend. but if I can hold your attention for a little while longer, I think you'll find today's class to be very interesting.
Are you going to tell us more stories of your adventures? One filly asked.
Actually, I'm not going to say much of anything at all, Professor Bronze admitted, but our guest speaker will be happy to tell you all you want.
He beckoned toward the hallway. Much to the disbelief of the class, Twilight Sparkle appeared through the doorway and cautiously trotted out in front of the room.
Hello?
The mayor said, rubbing a hoof against the back of the other and smiling sheepishly at all the astonished faces. There was another second of silence. Then chaos erupted in the room. Almost all of the students left from their desks and crowded around Twilight, bombarding the poor mayor with questions and shouts of admiration. Twilight backed up a pace or two and slowly turned in a circle, responding to the foal's outcries with halting, fragmented answers and nervous laughers.
All right, settle down, Professor Bronze called loudly. I know you're all excited to meet an element bearer, an extremely accomplished magic user, but there won't be much point to her coming out all the way here if you don't give her a chance to talk. Now will there?
I appreciate the enthusiasm, Twilight added, raising her voice a bit and doing her best not to look overwhelmed. But I've got a whole bunch of neat things to talk about, and we only have a limited time to discuss them. The quicker you all get settled, the quicker I can share some amazing stories. It took a few moments, but soon all the excited ponies returned to their desks. Twilight took a moment to glance around the room appreciatively. Boy, I remember having class in here. Feels like yesterday, she reminisced. And look, that crack I made in the bricks is still here from when I tried to magically fuse two volatile enchanted orbs with opposite polarities back in my 4th year. She smiled dreamily for a moment, then noticed the surprised looks of many of the students straightening up, once again looking nervous. She quickly looked around for anything she could use to change the subject. Her eyes fell upon the only 2 ponies in the room she knew.
Oh, hello, Dinky and Clarity, she greeted. I spent so much time preparing a lecture, I almost forgot you two would be here. Hello, Miss Twilight,
Dinky replied, knowing the whispers of general awe around the room, as her classmates realized that she was in fact a personal student of the Twilight Sparkle.
Hey, Twilight,
Clarity greeted smoothly, giving 1/4 of a slow wave.
You know Twilight Sparkle too?
The colt behind her asked her eagerly.
Sure, I've met her several times, Clarity said. I just saw her a few weeks ago when she took me and Dinky to the Canterlot Archives.
The colt's jaw dropped, and Dinky put out a hoof over her snout to stifle a laugh. In reality, Clarity was probably just as excited to see Twilight again as the rest of the students were to meet her. But her casual act certainly seemed to be fooling the pony behind her.
You're such a ham sometimes,
Dinky mouthed after Twilight's attention had turned elsewhere again. Clarity simply smirked and chose not to reply.
Now, I suppose we should get started, Dinky said.
Twilight said,
Dinky told me the class had invited me to give a lecture on the elements of harmony. I figured I'd bring one along to use as an example.
Twilight opened her saddlebag and withdrew her golden aura with a large, star-shaped magenta-colored stone adorning the top.
This is the element of magic, she explained. It's the central element that ties the others together. But technically, it's not any more important than the other 5. After all, none of them can really be used unless they're united. This is because magic draws on the power of the bond between their bearers and converts it into a formerly unobserved type of magical energy.
Twilight seemed to overcome her nerves very quickly once her speech began, and soon she was rattling off facts, ideas, and theories about Equestria's most powerful artifacts. Dinky, who had heard most of the lecture during her tutoring, found herself beginning to zone out a bit. Instead, she focused on deciding how she was going to ask Twilight for help with the dark aura situation without seeming overly suspicious. Dinky only realized how far her mind had wandered when she realized Twilight's ongoing explanation of the elements drawn to a close. She joined the class in a round of applause.
Thank you, Twilight, for that presentation,
Professor Bronze said, as most of the students made their way out the door.
It seems like the students really appreciate your visit. It seems like you enjoyed your visit to the Academy as well. I'm sure the other professors and I would be happy to have you again in the future to offer more of your insights.
Oh gosh, really?
Twilight asked, flushing slightly and giving a vast smile.
I knew I was one of the Academy's better students back in the day, but I didn't realize my guest lectures were so sought after. Dinky and Clarity waited patiently as Twilight exchanged a few more words with the professor. As soon as the mayor finished her conversation, she turned and smiled at the fillies. "Hello, girls. Did I do okay?" Twilight asked. "I was a bit worried I didn't have enough to say about the effect, or maybe lack thereof, when the elements are used when one or two mariners are swapped out for somebody else. Then again, in my experience, that's only happened once." Clarity waved a forehead dismissively. "You did fine, Miss Twilight," she insisted. "Keep giving lectures like that, and I bet you'll be a teacher here by the time we graduate." Twilight grinned. "I don't know about that, Clarity." She giggled. "I know a lot about magic, but I'm not sure my skills are focused enough in any one area to teach a whole subject." Dinky waited for Twilight to stop giggling, then put on her most innocent, curious face.
Hey, Miss Twilight, before you go, I had a magic question I was hoping you could help me with.
"Oh?" Twilight asked, looking quite interested. "Is it something complicated? I think you'd be able to find the answer in the school library."
Well,
Dinky began, shuffling a forehead.
it's,
She lowered her voice.
not about dark magic, but it kinda concerns it.
Twilight's brow furrowed. "Dinky, you're staying away from those spells, right?"
Of course!
Dinky quickly assured her.
But, some beam is still out there, and I was wondering, as a precaution, is there any particularly powerful disenchantment spell I can use to dispel stored dark magic?
It was a weathered statue of a unicorn, standing unassumingly in one corner of a patch of begonias. It was ancient, clearly, as any details of the face and mane had long since worn away. Dinky had passed it hundreds of times and never given it more a passing glance. Today, impulsive energy that made her horn throb and legs shake. It would be the perfect test subject. Clarity and Honeydew stared nearby, watching with quiet disinterest as Dinky placed 4 gemstones she had enchanted earlier that day in a square pattern around the base of the sculpture. She lit her horn, and each of them began to glow with her yellow light.
Here goes nothing,
she said, earning silent nods from the other fillies. Calling forth the spells she practiced many times in the few days since Twilight's visit, she lit the gemstones with the small 4 beams of light. The instant the square was complete, the statue gave an alarming crackle, splitting back sparks in every direction. The reaction took only a second or so. Then the gemstones and statue itself were silent. "Did it work?" Clarity asked. "Can you feel anything?" Dinky had been so surprised by the result of her spell, she hadn't realized it right away. But stopping to check, she wasn't met with any more unpleasant sensations.
I think it worked,
she said breathlessly.
Let me check.
Biting her lip, Dinky went to the forehoof and gingerly moved it towards the statue, expecting the sensation to reappear at any moment. Honeydew whined nervously.
Dinky, be careful.
Dinky squeezed her eyes shut and placed her hoof on the cold stone. But to her relief, not only did she essentially shoot off dark energy, she didn't feel any effect at all. She sighed, relieved.
Yeah, it worked.
"Ha ha! Yeah!" Clarity cheered, stabbing her front hoof several times. "Let's see how Sunbeam deals with that one."
I have to admit, you're doing a really good job fighting back.
Honeydew added.
At this rate, you should make it past Scorpio's apex without too much trouble.
Dinky smiled confidently.
I hope so. It's not much more than a muffled wing now, after all. Somebody would have to pull off something pretty fantastic to turn me into a wraith by the end of the term.
"I wonder why Scuffle didn't show up to see you test that spell out," Clarity wondered aloud. "He seemed pretty excited about it when you described it this morning." Dinky shrugged.
I don't know, she meant. Maybe he...
Dinky was cut off by the sound of desperate yelling and harsh laughter not too far away. The girls recognized one of those voices immediately. It was Scuffle, and he was not happy. Honeydew put a half out of her mouth, concerned.
What's going on over there?
She whimpered. Dinky swiveled her ears, listening to the continued laughter growing louder as Scuffle's cries grew more frantic and outraged.
Sounds like Scuffle's in trouble. You don't let us who I think it is. It's not hard to guess why.
Well, come on. Let's go see. Before Clarity's finished speaking, she and Dinky already broke into a run. Heidi squeaked in protest, but it had no offense, so she nervously dashed after the others. A crowd had gathered at the back of the castle. Police watched either with morbid curiosity or sinister glee as the Frostfire twins entertained their audience. Scuffle stood between his brothers. The colt had somehow been stained bright pink from head to hoof, and stood crying out in agonized protest as Scorch held him in place. Frosty was lazily conjuring a flurry of orange and yellow flowers, was drifted lazily down and adorned Scuffle's mane in the ground around him. Stop it! Stop it! Let go! Scuffle roared, wrinkling his Scorch's grip, firing off ineffectual spells. What kind of sick pleasure do you two peanuts get out of this stuff? Oh, come on, Scuff, Frosty said, in his famous mock-unhappy tone. We're just trying to help you fit in. A little lighter and pink, and a few more cut flowers, and you won't stand out as much for those three sissy fillies you like so much anymore. The elder colt conjured one final flower, it delicately placed behind Scuffle's ear. There, he said, grinning and admiring his handiwork. Looks perfect, huh, Squirt? Really fits him. Frosty agreed. Many of the gathered ponies laughed. Scuffle, finally freed of Scorch's grip, stared at his coat in horror. Gritting his teeth, he turned to his brothers, who were giving him smug stares. You two are the absolute worst excuses for older brothers I've ever seen! He snarled, breathing heavily. Scorch clicked his tongue and flicked one of the flowers out of Scuffle's hair. Is that so? What you gonna do about it, bro? Scuffle snarled. You wanna know what I'm going to do? Do you? Scuffle stood, bending hard, staring defiantly up at his brothers, giving him identical bored looks. Every pony watched, waiting to see the young colt's retaliation. No pony expected what happened next. A change seemed to wash over Scuffle. His angry posture became more humble. His tail drooped low, and his eye contact with his brothers was broken. The colt seemed to shrink down until he really did look no more threatening than the most harmless filly. Tears forming in his eyes, he collapsed to the ground. I'm going to surrender, he said flatly. I've had it. You win. I just don't have it in me to fight back anymore. Frosty laughed loudly. I knew it. You really are a weakling. You heard it here, everybody, Scuffle said to the onlookers. Little Scuffle's no tougher than the fillies he hangs out with. Nothing but a no-talent shrimp.
What about the princesses? They're bears and they're pretty badass.
Shut up! The brothers laughed and gave a triumphant hoof bump as the thoroughly defeated Scuffle broke into quiet sobs beneath them. The crowd began to dissipate, save for a few of Scorch's and Frosty's friends, who stuck around to congratulate them on their fantastically cruel prank and reaction it had caused. Jeez, Clarity mumbled. Poor Scuffle.
Yeah,
Heidi agreed quietly.
That's unfortunate. Now, let's get out of here before the twins notice. We can't just go,
Dinky said, turning around to face Honeydew, who was already backing off.
Look at him. He needs us right now.
Honeydew froze.
But,
she stuttered, pawing nervously at the ground.
You know we can't stop the Scuffle's brothers, right?
Do you think they're low enough to go after us if we stand up for him? Clarity asked. Honeydew glanced toward the twins, still chatting gleefully as he stood over Scuffle's prostrate form.
Right now, I'm not sure there's anything beneath those two.
Dinky Stenhouse was off.
Okay, I'll go alone then, she announced. Scuffle's suffering because of us, remember? I don't know about you two, but I meant it when I said I was his friend. So, if I had to endure his brother's fight too, at least he won't be alone in his misery.
Not waiting for further arguments, Dinky marched forward. As he got within a few pony lengths of the three colts, she let a match-canceling shockwave burst forth. melting the enchanted color off of Scuffle's coat. The twins looked at her surprised.
And what do you think you're doing, small fry? Scout asked. We don't appreciate killjoys.
Me, Scuffle, alone, Dinky said lovely. Look out. He's done. Why would you even want to keep bothering him?
Hearing Dinky's voice, Scuffle looked up and brought the tears from his eyes. Go away, Dinks, he urged. This has nothing to do with you.
Yeah. Buzz off, kid.
Frosty grumbled.
Dinky shook her head. Nope. It's time somebody stood up for Scuffle. And I'm going to be the pony to do it.
You mean we're going to be the ponies to do it? Clardy arrived at Dinky's side, glaring at the other colts. Squirts and Frosty exchanged a surprised glance.
Maybe Scuffle hasn't mentioned.
Frosty stared coldly.
No, pony. At this school talks back to the Frostfire twins. So why don't you two go mind your own damn business?
Go, Scuffle pleaded. Don't make them mad, please. You'll regret it. I'll be all right for... He stopped mid-sentence. His gaze focused on something behind the two fillies. For a moment, Dinky had no idea what caught his attention. But when a third filly slunk forward to stand by her side, she quickly made the connection.
I think I'd like to stand up for Scuffle, too.
Heidi stuttered, shaking uncontrollably as she struggled to hold her ground in front of the other colts.
We're not going to let you hurt our friend anymore.
Scuffle twisted in surprise. Scorch and Frosty exchanged another glance, grinned darkly, and turned back to the fillies.
Well now, that almost sounds like a threat,
Scorch said, taking a step forward.
What do you think, Frosty?
I think it was, Scorch, Frosty said in the same intrigued tone.
You know what that means, don't you? It means we might have to remind these little three about the pecking order around here.
Well, let's see. There's you guys. There's the dirt. There's the worms that eat the dirt. Celestia's stool. The girls. The main six. Celestia. And then Discord. Wait, what? Dinky and Clarity maintained their defiant expressions. Both fillies began to back off as Scorch and Frosty advanced. Lady's pupils contracted as she stood frozen with fear. Frosty leaned down so his muzzle was only an inch away from hers.
Hey there, sweetheart, he said, his voice dripping with malice. Sorry to break it to you, but you and your friends are about to learn a very hard lesson.
Lady opened her mouth, but no sound came. Scorch bore down at Dinky and Clarity in the same fashion. Together, the brothers' horns sparked to life. All right, that's enough! Both colts stopped dead, exchanged their horns, and looked around. Scuffle was on his hooves. Hopefulness once again replaced with burning rage. If you hurt any hair on any of them, he threatened, I swear I will march over there and rip you two apart! Scorch blinked and burst into laughter. Frosty simply smirked.
I'd love to see that, he chuckled. Care to back that claim up, little bro?
Sure, said Scuffle, not missing a beat. How about you two blockheads duel me? Unless you're as spineless as you seem when you go after my friends like that. Frosty blinked.
A duel? You mean like a formal one? With rules and restrictions?
Scuffle nodded. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Or are you two too afraid to fight me? Both brothers scowled.
You better watch that mouth, bro,
Scorch warned, scraping a hoof angrily in the dirt. Do we have a deal or not? Scuffle asked loudly, ignoring the threats. Are you going to fight me, or go back to picking on three fillies with no real knowledge of battle magic? Frosty grinned.
Oh, no way we're passing this chance up.
He laughed, tossing his mane confidently.
We've got a secret duel spot up in the woods where we won't be interrupted by the overseers. Follow us and bring your sissy friends. It's no fun if they don't get to watch us turn you into a stain on the forest floor.
We'll see about that,
Scuffle said. Lead the way. Scorch and Frosty turned and made their way towards the forest. Scuffle glanced back at his three shark friends. Well, are you coming or what?
Scuffle,
Dinky said quietly, stepping towards Scuffle.
you didn't have to.
Scuffle put a hoof on Dinky's snout. Dinks, shut up. I can worry about that later, he commanded. Now come on. I've got a bone to pick with those idiots. Without another word, he marched off, and the fillies followed. Dinky had never seen this part of the forest. Deep in his heart, the ponies emerged in a clearing just before the sheer rock face that made up the Academy Valley wall. Large screech in the dirt and broken, overturned branches indicated that this was not the first duel to be held here. Let's decide the rules, Frosty said, taking a quill and an empty template for duel parameters from Battle Magic class out of his saddlebag. There's no time limit. We fight until one side either forfeits or knocked out. Anything goes in combat. Sound alright? Anything magic goes, Scuffle argued. No physical contact. Works for me, Frosty answered, scribbling the suggested rules down the scroll. If anything, that's going to make this even easier. He held out a quill to Scuffle. This form is a contract used in the upper-level battle magic classes, he explained. By putting your signature on it, you're magically binding yourself to stick to the rules written on it. You literally can't break them if you try. And believe me, we've tried, Scorch added. It also makes it impossible for bystanders to magically intervene. Frosty added, What? Any more objections? Just one, Scuffle replied. You two are looking forward to beating me fair and square in a fair fight, right? Scorch rolled his eyes. That's the point of the contract, doofus. We don't need to cheat to defeat our sissy little brother anyway. Right, Scuffle said. So I get a partner too, right? 2-on-1 isn't fair. Frosty raised an eyebrow. And where are you playing and getting a duel partner? You already agreed to this. If you don't have one, you'll be taking us on alone. Scuffle nodded. Hold that thought. Scuffle backed off a few paces, then turned and trotted over to his friends. They all gave him uncertain looks, and he sighed. Okay, look. I've been practicing those counter spells I mentioned, and I have a plan, he whispered. I'm almost sure it'll work, but I can't do it if I have to do it by myself. The strategy will totally work, though. You won't get hurt, I swear. Clarity looked unsure. How can you promise that? She asked. Your brothers are fishes.
Besides, if you're only doing them to defend us, why are you asking one of us to help?
Dinky asked. Scuffle glanced nervously back at his brothers, who appeared to be going impatient. I don't have time to explain, he said urgently. I know this plan will work, and if we win, it might get Scorch and Frosty off our backs forever. Although, I somehow doubt you're going to want to go through the duel, no matter what I say. Dinky rubbed her chin thoughtfully.
Well, I got my magically canting spell. Maybe if I...
No, it's not that simple, Scuffle said awkwardly. See, I know we can win, but only if my dueling partner is... Honeydew.
What?
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 What? What? Honeydew squealed.
No. Absolutely not. What could use I possibly in a duel? I don't know any battle magic. And not only would I be in danger, it'd be a waste to have me there.
Scuffle gently nudged Dinky, and Clarity aside, a step forward so he was face to face with Honeydew alone. Right now, it might be a waste, yeah, he agreed. But maybe not if I do this. He lit his horn, and a silver ring with a dark blue stone attached emerged from his bag, levitated through the air, and snapped itself near the tip of Honeydew's tail. The filly stared at the accessory blankly.
My spell enchantment ring.
She turned to Scuffle, eyes wide.
I thought it disappeared after I killed you with it. You had it all this time?
I knew if you wanted to get rid of it, Scuffle admitted, but I figured it might be useful to hang on to it. You know, just in case we ever need it again. Honeydew hugged her head.
Scuffle, I'm flattered, really, but you think I can help, but there's no way I'm going to duel Scorch and Frosty. I'm scared of you most of the time. I guess your brothers might just be paralyzed.
Scuffle gave Honeydew a long look. Honeydew, I can promise you won't get hurt. He said quietly, I know how Scorch and Frosty are, and I think I finally know how to overpower them. Yes, it it will be scary, but you'll be safe. I need you to trust me. Honeydew flinched.
Scuffle, the trusting between you and me has never exactly worked.
She mumbled, avoiding his gaze. Scuffle nodded. Then how about this? If you help me duel, and you get so much as a single scratch, you never have to trust me again. I'll stay out of your life completely, if that's what you really want. Honeydew raised an eyebrow.
You'd be okay with that?
I told you before, Scuffle said levelly. Although I can't seem to convince you, I honestly don't want anything bad to happen to you, or to Dinky, or Clarity. If you really, truly can't see me as anything but a threat, and you trust me anyway today and I let you down, well, I want me gone too. Honeydew chewed her lip and glanced at the other fillies.
Girls? I don't think we can help you with this one, Honeydew.
Dinky said sympathetically, putting a hoof on her friend's shoulder.
I know it seems like a no-win situation, but you gotta decide what you want to do.
Honeydew looked back to Scuffle. There was silence for a few seconds. Then she sighed and turned away. Right, Scuffle said finally. I kind of figured you wouldn't be up for dueling anyway. Can't blame me for trying, I guess. The cult waited a moment longer, then returned to his brothers. Both of them signed their names under the contract, then passed the quill to Scuffle, who signed his own. All right, he said. Let's duel. Your partner has to sign too, Scorch pointed out. But I don't have a dueling partner. Scuffle stopped mid-sentence, as a pale green light surrounded the quill. Honeydew stepped forward, hesitated for a moment, then slowly signed her name in delicate, lippy script right below Scuffle's scrawling hoof writing. Scuffle blinked. Honeydew? That contract's magically binding. You can't back out now.
I know,
Honeydew said nervously.
I told you not too long ago that you've never really done anything to prove I should trust you. I guess this is your chance.
Scorch and Frosty stood on one side of the clearing, both crouched low with identical batting stances. On the other end, Scuffle stood with his held head high, wearing a stern glare. Honeydew stood nearby, looking terrified and unsure what to do. Dinky sat in the sidelines with Clarity, feeling more than slightly concerned.
I get the feeling this isn't going to end well,
She mumbled, earning a nod from the filly next to her. Ready? Frosty called. Ready!
We're ready.
Honeydew mumbled. Good, Frosty said, grinning. Scorch, go ahead and turn up the heat on our punts, would you? Scorch lowered his head and conjured a rather large fireball at the tip of his horn. Let's see if your little seals are strong enough to stop us when we're playing to win, bro! He yelled, rearing up on his hind legs, then hurling the ball of flame forward as he fell back down to all fours. Scuffle's horn flared, and a smooth, translucent wall of cobalt blue erected itself in front of him. Scorch's attack connected head-on, and the shield wavered, but the fireball fizzled out instantly. You're going to have to do better than that, Scorch, Scuffle taunted. I thought you weren't going to hold back. You're digging your own grave here, Scuff, Scorch growled. Well, come on, then! Try again, Scuffle replied. Scorch's next fireball was much longer. With a roar, he tossed it across the battlefield. Scuffle stood his ground as the blistering orb flew through him. He's going to get hit! Dinky gasped. At the last moment, Scuffle silently lowered his head and performed a spell Dinky had never seen. A piercing one of blue light cut through the center of the fireball, blasting it apart into a few dozen tiny tongues of flame. The force of the counter spell threw the tiny fires back into the direction they came, raining them down on the twins. Frost reacted immediately. With pinpoint accuracy, he fired off dozens of jets of cool air, sniping and extinguishing each of the fires before they could burn the cults. Well, Clarity said, stunned.
I guess Scuffle really has been practicing counter spells,
Dinky said, switching her tail excitedly. Cute, Frosty said, once the fires had been put out. I wasn't expecting that one. But it's not like I haven't seen it before either. You're going to need something more creative to stop this.
The cult conjured a swarm of tiny icicles in the air around him. The frosty stars swirled around him for a moment. Then his horn flared, and he launched into the air, circling overhead like birds of prey searching for a meal. Honeydews' gaze flickered nervously between the brothers in airborne circles.
Scuffle?
She asked, frightened.
Do you know how to stop that?
Scuffle snored.
Those things can't get through my best shields.
Frosty smirked and stabbed his front hooves. The icicles turned and dime-balled towards Scuffle. Scuffle raised his shield, but the smug look on Frosty's face concerned him.
Perfect, Frosty laughed. Now, Scorch!
Another fireball blasted from Scorch's horn, and crackled as it blazed not toward Scuffle, but toward Honeydew. The filly cried out, threw up a forehoof to try to defend herself. An instant before it made contact, a bright blue shield appeared, taking the full force of the fireball. Honeydew opened her eyes just in time to see Scuffle, now defending her instead of himself, be pelted with Hasarp's icicles. He grunted in pain as he shattered against him, a few of those slicing through the cuts in his back and sides.
Told you, you're not getting hurt,
he panted, managing a pained smile.
Oh, how noble, Scorch cooed mockingly. That partner of yours isn't much use, Scuff. Just keep taking hits to protect that little waste of space, and this duel will be over in no time.
Scuffle glanced in Honeydew's direction. I'll keep you covered, don't worry, he urged. You know what to do, right? Honeydew paused, glanced at the bauble on her tail, and nodded slowly.
Good, then do it, Scuffle instructed. I'm counting on you.
Suddenly, a patch of ice formed a ring around Scuffle on the ground. Shackle-like crystalline structures burst up, latching themselves onto his legs and around his midsection.
So don't let yourself get distracted like that, Frosty called. Time to end this.
The icy chains on the shackles began to retract into the ice on the ground, forcing Scuffle down with them. While Scorch prepared another attack. Honeydew! Now! Please! Scuffle gasped as he struggled. Honeydew watched the gullet get pulled lower and lower to the ground, blocking attack after attack of his shields. Her eyes narrowed and the gemstone on her tail ring flashed. On the sidelines, Dinky's eyes widened.
Look at Honeydew,
She whispered to Clarity.
Something big's about to happen.
Frosty chuckled.
Well, we're about done here,
He said to Scorch.
Scuff can't defend much longer. Just keep throwing those fireballs, and he'll— Whoa!
A small, root-like tendril wrapped around Frosty's legs and pulled. The colt collapsed. His horn flickered out on impact. Scuffle quickly gained some more control, pounded the icy shackles against the ground, shattering him.
What?
Scorch asked, unsure what happened to his brother.
Why'd you do that? We're winning! It wasn't me, you joke, Frosty snapped. It's the pink filly! She's got some techniques that are a little sneakier than Scuff's. Scorch scowled. All right, let's get her!
The brothers stood side by side. From below, Scorch created a pillar of flame, while Frosty added a column of light conjured from above. They met at the center, quickly forming a spear of boiling water. Honeydew tried to best to animate some of the larger roots, but they could only get the small ones to respond, while the brothers continued to shake off. He tossed the steaming spear towards their target, just as Scuffle fizzed free himself. He leapt across the battlefield, placed himself directly in front of Honeydew, and lit his horn. The ball of hot water changed its course, slung around Scuffle and Honeydew, then hurled back at Scorch and Frosty at twice the speed. The twins didn't even have time to dodge. Only Frosty's shield protected them, although it was weaker than the one Scuffle tended to produce, splashing the pairs of ponies with thrusts of hot water.
What did you just do?
Honeydew asked, surprised. Who says gravity spells can only be vertical? Scuffles asked, grinning. I made a gravitational field around myself. The slate sought the spell back out. I can only maintain a gravity pattern that complex for a moment, but it works when I need it.
Oh, really?
Frosty asked from across the field.
Let's see how long you can keep it up, then.
Frosty began to hurl blast after blast of ice at his opponents. Scorch began to alternate with him, tossing fireballs between each one. Panicked, Scuffle began to use the same gravity counter, but the complicated spell was hard to use again and again, resulting in the attacks being tossed in random directions,
rather than Scorch and Frosty. Honeydew cowered behind Scuffle, whimpering as ice and fire swirled around her and thrown away. Honeydew! Scuffle pleaded, struggling to keep the Barads away from the two of them. I know you're scared, and I know it's hard, but you need to focus. There are trees all around the clearing. There must be some bigger roots you can use against Scorch and Friday! Honeydew's horn burned brighter. Her tail ring glowed as she strained.
I'm trying. I'm just trying I can.
You can! Scuffle insisted, noticing his gravitational fields growing smaller, causing the incessant attacks to sense the tips of his chest fur or chill his sensitive snout. I believe in you. Keep trying! Let's see if this helps speed things up. Can't block this one, Scuff! He pounded his forehost for emphasis as his magic snaked through the ground of the area, forming a network of cracks. He saw a beam of fiery arrows into the crevices of his hose, causing little jets of flames to shoot up from the many cracks made their way to Scuffle and Honeydew. Scuffle gasped as the flames worked away to him. To his surprise, Honeydew seemed to brighten slightly.
That was a bad move,
she whispered. The filly squeezed her eyes shut, strange to make her horn flare brighter. Without warning, half a dozen huge roots, like fingers of a subterranean colossus, burst up the ground, weakened by Scorch's spell, raining soil down on the surprised twins. There was no time to react. 3 roots took hold of each other, twirling and twisting to hold them stationary, immobilizing and wooding bindings. Scorch's jet fire spell was interrupted before it reached Scuffle and Honeydew. The brothers dangled in midair in odd positions, tied firmly around the limbs and torso by the jutting roots. Winter terrorist! Frosty cried, wrestling fruitlessly against his bonds. Is that filly doing this? Don't worry about it, Scorch called. We can fight our way out of these things in a minute. Right now, hurry up and finish off Scuff. He's exhausted. Frosty nodded, fought against the roots to get into a slightly more favorable position, facing his horn towards his opponents.
Now what?
Honeydew asked, sounding increasingly panicked. Stay on the defensive, Scuffle replied. My offensive battle spells are too weak to be much help, but as long as we keep them trapped, I should be able to counter their spells. Oh, you think you're a hotshot just because you can counter? Frosty shot back, managing to turn his head face towards Scuffle and Honeydew. Well, not every spell's so easy to counter, bro. I think you've had to use these. But let's see what you think of the spell Scorch and I invented ourselves. Condensed Inferno? Scorch asked. Yeah, a condensed blizzard. Frosty replied. Hit him with both at once. The whilst had never been born. Something new began to form at the end of Frosty's horn. It wasn't the typical icy blast he usually cast. In fact, it didn't seem to be made of snow and ice at all, but rather bluish-white energy. A hissing sound filled the air, and droplets of liquid began to form all around the spell, freezing to ice before even hitting the ground.
He's barely freezing the air around it,
Dinky realized from her seat on the sidelines.
That thing's dangerously cold.
Scorch formed a similar spell with fire, red and pulsing. It warped the air around it with an intense heat mirage, while the grass beneath it browned and withered. Scuffle swallowed hard. Honeydew, back up, he commanded. Don't drop your spell, but make sure you keep your distance. Got it? Honeydew nodded, quivering peacefully, and stepped back.
Scuffle!
Dinky called.
You don't see me getting near you. You're gonna regret it. Be careful!
No amount of distance is going to save him, kid. Frosty spat. Scuffle responded by widening his stance and lowered his head. His expression determined. Now! Frosty commanded. He and Scorch both launched their intense spells, causing the grass to either wither or freeze as the spells passed above it. Scuffle threw back his head and launched a shockwave that, for a moment, Dinky thought might have been the magic canceling wave she often used. But this wave was less easily seen. Rather, it was felt. Gravitational field, almost as wide as the arena, extended out from the central point of Scuffle's horn. Both the huge spells were caught in it, began to move along the outer edge like planets orbiting a star, not harming Scuffle at all. The twins' eyes widened. What? Frosty asked, incredulous that Scuffle's control over gravity was so strong. Keeping the 2 dangerous spells at a safe distance from himself, Scuffle brought them quickly together. The spell, surprisingly, did not cancel inside or out. The condensed inferno worked tirelessly to melt the condensed blizzard. Once it turned, refused to give up on its efforts to freeze the condensed inferno solid. The result was a turning mass of beating entities. When it crackled loudly, it caused strange ripples in the air around it as it continued to orbit Scuffle. Scorch gave Frosty a nervous look as he struggled against his twin prison. Well, is that supposed to happen? Well, look at this. Scuffle laughed, turning slowly around as he watched the sparkling spell orbit him. Looks like I've got a pretty powerful spell here. Let's see what happens if I condense it further. The spell was encased in a blue aura. Scuffle applied uniform gravity to it, shrinking it down to a sphere no bigger than his own head. It began to hum, and cracking became louder. Scorch and Frosty now genuinely looked afraid. Alright, hang on a second, bro, Frosty said with a nervous chuckle. I know we said anything goes, but now this might be going a little bit too far. Oh, so you forfeit? Scuffle asked with a poorly concealed glee. Frosty scowled. Not on your life, you little... Okay then! Ha ha ha! Scuffle laughed as he spelled towards the trapped cults. The twins' eyes went wide. No! Scuff! Wait! The spell collided with the ground between the two prisons and immediately burst. There were two struck cries, one strained grunt, and several high-pitched screams. And all the sounds were drowned out by the thunderous roar of energy expanding explosively forth. Dinky didn't even have a fraction of a second to react before everything went white. Okay. That rocked.